What secrets is a pope hiding in the Vatican secret archives? Well, that's precisely what I hope to uncover in today's video. From the Gospel of Satan to the death certificate of Jesus Christ, the Vatican's archives have fueled speculation for centuries. Are these relics just myths, or is the truth even stranger? Get ready to dive into the shadows of history as we unravel the most mysterious and controversial artifacts allegedly hidden away by the Church. Let's reveal the secrets they don't want you to know. St. Catherine of Siena's severed hand. If you saw a saint levitating, would you think they were possessed or just full of the Holy Spirit? In the Basilica of San Domenico in Siena, Italy, sits one of the strangest and most sacred relics in Christian history, the dismembered, mummified head of St. Catherine of Siena. Oh, and her thumb is also nearby in a smaller reliquary. Pretty creepy, don't you think? But also fascinating. So how did the severed head of one of Christianity's most beloved saints end up in this holy display? Let's dive into the story. Catherine was no ordinary girl. By the age of 7, she claimed to have seen visions of Jesus seated on a throne surrounded by saints. During her teenage years, Catherine decided that marriage and worldly life weren't for her. When her family tried to push her into it, she took drastic action. She cut her hair, scalded her skin, because I guess guys weren't into girls with burns, and eventually she joined a nunnery. But get this, she later claimed that Jesus himself married her in a vision. I mean, who could say no to the Son of God? Like, for real, did she even have a choice? The guy can walk on water and bring people back from the dead. I wouldn't want to get on his bad side. Anyways, in this vision, he allegedly placed a mystical ring on her finger. However, the ring wasn't gold, silver, or made from some other precious metal. It was supposedly made from the holy foreskin of baby Jesus. Yes, you heard that right. Catherine swore that she could always see this divine ring, even if no one else could, which is pretty nasty if you ask me. And as if that wasn't enough, Catherine's life was filled with miraculous events. At 28, she reportedly received the stigmata, marks of Christ's crucifixion, after red rays shot out of a crucifix and pierced her body. This was just an average day for Catherine. She also had a flair for the dramatic. According to reports, she often levitated during prayer, and once a priest said that the Holy Communion flew straight into her mouth like a divine frisbee. When Catherine died in Rome at 33 after suffering a stroke, Siena desperately wanted her back, but the Romans weren't giving up her body. So a group of determined Sienese made a bold move. They stole her head, hiding it in a paper bag. The Roman guards stopped them, but then a miracle happened. When the guards peeked inside the bag, they didn't see a head. What did they see instead? Rose petals. Once safely back in Siena, the head reappeared in all its glory. It seemed that Catherine, even in death, had their backs. Today, her head rests in a lavishly decorated reliquary in Siena, and her thumb is nearby. The rest of her body remains in Rome, with one foot reportedly in Venice. My question is, where's the magical foreskin ring? Was it even real at all? What do you think? The Gospel of Satan. Do you think you would ever find yourself in a situation where you would consider making a deal with the devil? Locked away in the mysterious Vatican secret archives, or so the story goes, is one of the creepiest books ever written. The Grand Grimoire, also known as the Gospel of Satan or the Red Dragon. It sounds like the name of a heavy metal album, but I can guarantee you that this thing goes harder than Metallica. This infamous medieval manuscript isn't for casual readers. It's said to contain instructions for summoning demons, making pacts with the devil, and wielding unimaginable power. Would you dare to take a peek inside its pages? Listen to this and let me know if you would or not in the comments down below. Now let's rewind a bit to this book's alleged origins. According to legend, the Grand Grimoire was penned in the 16th century by a shadowy figure named Honorius of Thebes. Honorius was supposedly possessed by Satan himself while writing it. The book was rumored to have been discovered in 1750 in the mysterious tomb of Solomon, tying it to King Solomon, who was famously associated with magic and wisdom. And to really up the mystique, the text was supposedly written in Biblical Hebrew or Aramaic, giving it an ancient, almost otherworldly vibe. So what's inside this forbidden tome, you may be asking? The book is broken into 4 parts, all of which are jam-packed with occult secrets. These secrets include spells, rituals, and most infamously, instructions for summoning Lucifer, or his pal Lucifuge Rothakali, the Prime Minister of Hell according to the text. One of the key tools for this ritual? A blasting rod, which sounds like a magical lightsaber but is actually meant to smite the devil into submission. The book even has a how-to section for sealing deals with demons, featuring something called the Triangle of Pacts. To complete this ritual, the book calls for 2 blessed candles, a magical stone called Ematil, and a whole lot of nerve. The person attempting this must not try to get cursed while bargaining with the Prince of Darkness himself. I don't know, it just doesn't seem worth it to me. This grimoire is downright evil, so it makes total sense that it would be locked away in one of the holiest places on Earth. The Vatican Secret Archive supposedly contains the original manuscript, keeping it far away from the public eye. Why? To keep its dangerous knowledge from falling into the wrong hands. Well, either that or the church is trying to hide something even darker. Nobody really knows the truth, except maybe the Pope and God. In the 18th century, however, copies of the book made their way into the world during the cheap grimoire boom in France. You can think of these texts as the paperback romance novels of occultism. One version of the Gospel of Satan even made it to the Caribbean, where it gained popularity in Haiti under the name Le Véritable Dragon Rouge. Could this be why voodoo is so commonly practiced in Haiti? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. So, is the Grand Grimoire a real tool of dark magic, or just the stuff of legends? Whatever the case may be, you probably don't want to borrow it for bedtime reading. Unless, of course, you're a fan of nightmares. And now for a quick break. But first, I wanted to give a shout out and big thank you to Dorothy Breen and Angus Wolfe for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. The Heart of St. Camillus. If you found out that a neighbor kept organs as souvenirs, you'd be totally creeped out. But for whatever reason, the church can do the same thing and nobody bats an eye. Why is that? Let's talk about hearts. Not the kind you draw in your notebook during math class, but an actual heart, one so extraordinary that it became a holy relic. This heart belonged to Saint Camillus de Lellis, a man from the 16th century who wasn't just any saint. He was a healthcare hero and all-around good guy. They even called him the Giant of Charity. Why? Because he changed how people cared for the sick, making compassion and dignity the centerpiece of healthcare. His heart quite literally became a symbol of this mission. Born in 1550, Camillus didn't exactly have the smoothest start. Let's just say he wasn't always a saint. He struggled with gambling and bad decisions before turning his life around. But when he found God, he was inspired by his faith. He devoted himself to caring for the sick and even founded the Order of the Ministers of the Sick, also known as the Camillians. This wasn't just any order. They were like the Navy SEALs of compassion, dedicated to both physical and spiritual care. Camillus believed that the rights of the weak weren't just important, they were the very heartbeat of society. He often told his followers, "More heart in those hands," or in other words, do everything with love, especially when helping those in need. Camillus walked the walk, and his life of service earned him sainthood after his death in 1614. But this story isn't just about his deeds, it's about what happened to his heart after he passed away. Now, here's where things get wild. After Camillus died, people couldn't help but wonder, what kind of heart drives someone to be so compassionate? So naturally, to find out, they had his heart removed and preserved as a relic, a physical reminder of his incredible love and charity. When the surgeon removed it, they were stunned. According to witnesses, it was so vibrant and red that it looked like a ruby. I don't know if I believe it, but that's how the story goes. The heart was then carefully placed in a cypress box and was sent to Naples, where it became a cherished relic of the Camillian order. Over time, it found its home in a room that had once been Camillus's infirmary. This space, which is now a chapel, is adorned with Baroque decorations. But the true star of the show is the heart itself, proudly displayed for all to admire. Relics like Camillus's heart are more than just historical artifacts. They're spiritual treasures. For the faithful, the heart represents his love for humanity and his connection to God. Camillus's compassion didn't come out of nowhere. It was inspired by the teachings of Jesus, whose own heart is often described as a burning furnace of charity. How would you describe your own heart? Full of love? Full of hate? Full of cholesterol? Let me know down below. The Holy Souls of Purgatory. Imagine a museum where the exhibits aren't just ancient artifacts. They're messages from souls stuck between heaven and hell, begging for help. How much do you think they charge for admission? Well, apparently it's free. That's right, this is a real place known as the Museum of the Holy Souls in Purgatory. It's a tiny but fascinating spot tucked inside the Chiesa del Sacro Cuore del Suffragio, or the Church of the Sacred Heart of Suffrage in Rome, near the Tiber River. But don't let its small size fool you. This museum has a big story to tell. Do you think you can handle it? The museum's collection is like something out of a ghost story. Inside a single glass case, you'll find signed Bibles, prayer books, clothing, and even tabletops, all marked by what are said to be the hands of souls in purgatory. What exactly is purgatory? Well, according to Catholic belief, it's a spiritual waiting room. Souls who aren't ready for heaven because of their sins hang out there until they're atoned enough to ascend. But here's the catch. They need prayers from the living to speed things up. So where did this belief come from? While the Bible doesn't mention purgatory, the idea has been around since at least the 11th century. The story goes that a monk returning from the Holy Land told Abbot Oddio of Cluny about a strange island he washed up on after a shipwreck. A hermit living there described a fiery chasm filled with screaming souls, and demons complaining about losing souls whenever the living prayed for them. What in the world? I mean, if someone told you a story like this, would you believe them? Sounds like they're a little off their rocker. But Abbot Odilo was inspired by this tale, so the Catholic Church made freeing these souls a priority. In fact, November 2nd became All Souls Day, a time to pray for those trapped in purgatory. Then in the early 1900s, a French missionary named Victor Jouet founded the museum after a fire-damaged part of the Chiesa del Sacro Cuore. Why? Because the fire left behind a scorched image of a face, which Jouet believed was a trapped soul crying out for help. After that, he began collecting other objects with similar markings, and bada boom, bada bing, the museum was born. But are these burn marks really messages from beyond, or are they just smoke and coincidence? And what would you do if a handprint suddenly showed up on your stuff? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Don Bosco's brain. I understand someone who's down on their luck feeling the need to steal things they might be able to turn around and sell for money. However, it makes no sense that someone would want to steal a brain. I mean, unless that person was a zombie. But that's exactly what happened in 2017. The holy relic of St. John Bosco, a chunk of his brain no less, was taken from its display in Asti, Italy. That's right, someone actually swiped a saint's brain. But don't worry, the story has a happy ending, and maybe a lesson or two about not keeping holy relics in easy-to-swipe jars. But first things first, who was St. John Bosco? Known as Don Bosco, he was a 19th century Italian priest with a heart of gold and a knack for helping troubled youth. He was also a bit of a showman, so much so that he's the patron saint of stage magicians. Imagine blessing the sick and then immediately turning around to perform card tricks. Or maybe it was his card tricks that were the real blessings. In 1888, St. Bosco passed away after succumbing to a horrible fever that left his body exhausted. Afterward, pieces of his brain were preserved as relics. They were considered sacred by the faithful and were displayed in a golden reliquary at his hometown basilica. And that's where the relic stayed until the thief struck in 2017. Who was this robber? A 42-year-old man with a criminal record who thought he'd hit the jackpot. Apparently, he thought the brain was solid gold and could fetch a high price, likely on the black market. But spoiler alert, the brain wasn't gold. And nobody claimed that it was. Using fingerprints and shoe prints, police tracked the thief to his apartment near Turin, where they found the relic hidden in, of all places, a copper kettle. Yep, the man literally put a saint's brain in a pot. What was he planning to do, make a divine stew? Thankfully, the seal on the jar holding the relic wasn't broken, so St. Bosco's brain stayed intact. When the relic was stolen, it sparked a global outcry. Catholic communities held prayer vigils and flooded the basilica with messages of support, proving that a saint's brain means more than just history. To many, it's a symbol of faith and connection. In the end, the brain made its way back to the basilica, safe and sound, with quite a story to tell. Have you ever visited the dark web? Do you think someone would pay for a dead saint's brain there? How much would they be willing to pay? The Sarcophagus of St. Helena. Prepare to be amazed by the incredible story of St. Helena. This isn't your typical saintly biography. I mean, this woman found the true cross, for crying out loud. Her tale also explores the mysteries surrounding her magnificent sarcophagus and how her remains ended up scattered across Europe. St. Helena was the mother of Emperor Constantine, the guy who popularized Christianity in the Roman Empire. And Helena herself was more than just any saint. She was the legendary finder of the true cross, the very one that Jesus was crucified on. In 326 AD, she allegedly uncovered it in Jerusalem, and her discovery made her an instant rock star of the early Christian world. Think Indiana Jones, but with miracles and less running from giant boulders. She's also credited with locating the crucifixion nails and a tunic that was worn by Jesus. Now let's get into her mysterious sarcophagus. It's made of red porphyry, a super rare stone that screams imperial fancy. But here's the weird part. The carvings on it show war scenes, soldiers, horses, and battles. Not exactly what you'd expect for a peaceful, saintly woman, right? Some historians think this tomb was actually meant for Constantine himself, but plans changed. Who knows? Maybe Constantine said, "Nah, Mom, you take it." Originally, Helena's sarcophagus was housed in her mausoleum along the Via Casalina in Rome, but this is where things get messy. By the 9th century, relic mania had taken over Europe. Churches and monasteries were obsessed with collecting bits of saints to boost their status. French monks, who weren't exactly shy, cracked open Helena's tomb and took pieces of her remains back to France. That's why parts of her are now in Paris in the church of Saint-Leu Saint-Gilles. But that's not the end of her story. Other bits of her ended up in Rome's Basilica of the Araceli and even in Trier, Germany, Constantine's old stomping grounds. And then there's a Venetian twist. Some people claim that her remains were stolen during the Fourth Crusade in 1204 and ended up in the island of St. Helena in Venice. The story goes that the Venetians built a church there to house her relics after their ship conveniently stopped by the island. Coincidence? Probably not. Trying to find all of St. Helena's bones would be like the ultimate scavenger hunt. Her sarcophagus may rest in the Vatican, but her legacy is spread far and wide. Not even in death can this saint stay put. The death certificate of Jesus Christ. What if the world's most famous piece of linen wasn't just a relic, but a receipt? A receipt for what, you ask? Oh, just a burial certificate of one Jesus of Nazareth. At least that's the bold claim of Vatican scholar Dr. Barbara Frail. She believes the Shroud of Turin, which is already shrouded, pun intended, in mystery, contains faint writing that could change how we view history. For those of you who don't know, the Shroud of Turin is a linen cloth that many Christians believe bears the image of Jesus after his crucifixion. It's currently housed in Turin Cathedral, where it occasionally gets shown to the public. While a 1988 carbon dating study suggested the cloth was a medieval forgery, this hasn't stopped people from examining it for deeper secrets. And boy, did Dr. Frail find one. Using advanced imaging techniques, she claimed to have spotted faint inscriptions in Greek, Hebrew, and Latin on the shroud. What could these barely there letters possibly say? Something you might not expect. A death certificate. According to Dr. Frail, the text identifies Jesus as the Nazarene, not Christ, which would have been taboo for medieval Christians. It also outlines his death sentence and burial details. The inscription reportedly reads something like this: "In the year 16 of the reign of Emperor Tiberius, Jesus the Nazarene, condemned to death by a Roman judge, is hereby sent for burial." It even mentions Jewish burial practices of the time, which required bodies of the executed to be tagged for future identification. Think of it as an ancient paperwork glued to the shroud. But wait, how did Dr. Frail know the text wasn't some medieval scribble from later on? She pointed out that the writing didn't match medieval Christian terminology. Instead, it reflected the multicultural mix of Greek-speaking Jews and Romans living in Palestine at the time of Jesus. And to add another twist, the letters are written in reverse and only visible in negative photographs, much like the mysterious image of the man on the shroud. Naturally, not everyone agrees. Some skeptics say the writing might be from a later reliquary or simply wishful thinking. Even the Catholic Church has stayed neutral, neither fully endorsing the shroud's authenticity nor dismissing it. But the story doesn't end there. Dr. Frail's work sparks an irresistible question. If this inscription is real, does it prove anything about Jesus? What do you think? So, is the Shroud of Turin a forgery, a holy relic, or history's most fascinating receipt? I'll let you be the judge. The Vatican elephant. Did you know that Pope Leo X's favorite pet wasn't a dog, cat, or a bird? Nope, it was an elephant. That's right, deep beneath the Vatican's Belvedere courtyard lies a skeleton, an elephant skeleton. But how in the world did an animal native to faraway lands end up buried in one of the holiest places in Christendom? Buckle up, because this story has politics, a celebrity pachyderm, and even a touch of scandal. The elephant in question, named Hanno, was a gift from King Manuel I of Portugal to Pope Leo X in 1514. Back then, gifting exotic animals to popes was the equivalent of sending them the latest iPhone. Only the animals were a lot more extravagant and a little harder to maintain. Manuel wasn't just being generous, he was playing chess in a high-stakes political game. Portugal wanted the Pope's blessing to expand its control over spice trade routes to India, which threatened the monopolies of Egyptian traders. So Manuel sent gold, jewels, luxurious textiles, and a parade of animals, with Hanno as the star attraction. Now, you might be wondering, did people in 16th century Italy even know what an elephant was? Sure, they'd heard of them. After all, Hannibal famously marched war elephants over the Alps. But seeing one was a whole different story. Hanno's arrival in Rome caused quite the sensation. The 4-year-old elephant, who was about as tall as a modern SUV, traveled slowly from the port of Hercules to the Vatican, leaving chaos in his wake. Peasants packed in fields, roofs collapsed under the weight of onlookers, and crowds mobbed the streets just to catch a glimpse of this extraordinary creature. It was like the medieval version of a celebrity tour gone wild. When Hanno finally made his grand debut for Pope Leo X, he didn't disappoint. Dressed in fancy vestments with a silver tower strapped to his back, Hanno knelt before the Pope. He bowed his head, trumpeted 3 times, and sprayed water over the cheering crowd. Even Leo got a refreshing splash, and he loved every second of it. The Pope adored Hanno, calling him a wonder to the whole world. Hanno quickly became Rome's biggest star, like the Taylor Swift of his time, but with a trunk. But sadly, Hanno's fame was cut short. He only lived 3 years in Rome, dying at the young age of 7, likely due to poor care and an unfortunate diet that included gold leaf. Yes, it's true. They fed him gold because it was fancy. Pope Leo X was devastated when he learned the news. He wrote a heartfelt epitaph and even commissioned the legendary artist Raphael to paint a fresco in Hanno's honor. Even in death, Hanno was given VIP treatment. The memory of this elephant lived on. His burial beneath the Belvedere courtyard became a quirky historical footnote, which was rediscovered centuries later during maintenance work in 1962. Workers found pieces of his jawbone and a tooth so large that they thought they'd stumbled upon a dinosaur. Turns out it was just Hanno still resting under the Vatican. His tusks, however, were removed at some point and are supposedly stored somewhere else. But where exactly, nobody knows. Could they be mounted on the walls of some holy man's bedroom? What do you think? Hanno wasn't just a pet. He was a symbol of politics, religion, and Europe's fascination with the exotic. His presence even became fodder for criticism during the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther's followers mocked the Catholic Church for its lavish treatment of the elephant, comparing it to the veneration of saints' relics. So Hanno unknowingly became part of the Church's controversies. Now you know. An elephant once walked the streets of Rome. It entertained the Pope, ate gold leaf, and left behind a skeleton that's currently buried beneath the Vatican. If someone gifted you an elephant, could you turn it down? Let me know in the comments down below. Alien secrets. Are aliens hiding out in the Vatican's basement? It's a crazy notion, but one that conspiracy theorists have latched onto recently. They really think that the Vatican has proof of extraterrestrials. But is there any truth to this claim? Are there really aliens or evidence of them in the same vaults that house ancient Bibles and papal secrets? The answer is yes, at least according to UFO campaigner Steve Bassett. In fact, he believes that the Catholic Church has been sitting on extraterrestrial secrets for centuries. Bassett claims that the Vatican's secret archives contain documents that prove UFOs and aliens exist. Why would the Church care about aliens, you ask? Well, Bassett says that they've been aware of these otherworldly visitors for hundreds and hundreds of years. He even suggests that religious artwork might contain clues. Have you ever noticed strange flying objects in centuries-old paintings? We've discussed many of these artworks on this channel in the past, but do these paintings really prove that the Vatican has knowledge about extraterrestrials that everyone else doesn't? Well, no. But things get weirder and harder to explain. In 2023, David Grush, a former U.S. Air Force officer, testified before Congress that the American government has recovered alien spacecraft. And not just that, but also the remains of their non-human pilots. According to Grush, this isn't a recent thing. He claims that in 1933, Mussolini's government got its hands on a crashed UFO and Pope Pius XII secretly helped the US acquire it during World War II. So is it true that the Vatican was involved in an international alien smuggling operation? It's hard to say, but if it comes out that this story really happened, Pope Francis has got some explaining to do. As of now, though, there isn't any concrete evidence. Bassett argues that an investigation is needed to uncover how much the Church and governments actually know, and he poses some big questions, like how did the supposed UFO get to the US? Who knew about it, and when? And most importantly, why is everyone being so secretive? Bassett isn't alone. Author and religious scholar Diana Walsh-Pasulka backs up the idea that the Vatican archives might hold records of paranormal events. She believes that the truth could literally be gathering dust in their basement, but accessing those archives isn't easy. You need the Holy See's permission, and they're not exactly rolling out the red carpet for UFO researchers. So, what do you think? Is the Vatican hiding alien secrets, or is this just another conspiracy theory? For now, it's all just speculation. But doesn't it make you wonder, what else could be lurking in the Church's ancient vaults? Let me know your thoughts down below. The devil in the details. Hidden devils in clouds? Sounds like the setup for a horror movie, or a very weird weather report. But this is actually a true story about a sneaky devil discovered in a famous 13th century fresco by Giotto di Bondone, one of the greatest painters of the Italian Renaissance. So how did this devil end up in a masterpiece? And why was it hidden in the first place? The devil in question was spotted lurking in the clouds of fresco number 20 in the Basilica of St. Francis in Assisi. Italian art historian Chiara Frugoni made the discovery while closely examining the artwork. The devil isn't immediately visible from the basilica floor, but when viewed in close-up photos, the profile of a figure with horns, a hooked nose, and a mischievous grin emerges. Who would have thought that clouds could hide something so sinister? Makes you want to look twice at the next fluffy cloud you see in the sky. Now, why would Giotto include this sneaky devil in a scene depicting the death of St. Francis? According to Sergio Fusetti, the chief restorer of the basilica, Giotti likely didn't intend for it to be a focal point of the work. For all anyone knows, it might have been an inside joke. Maybe Giotto was poking fun at someone he didn't like by painting them as a devil. Talk about 13th century shade. Now, Giotto himself is a fascinating figure. Born around 1267 in Florence, he's considered one of the pioneers of the Renaissance. His work introduced more realistic drawing techniques and natural postures, breaking away from the stiff, flat art of earlier centuries. Giovanni Villani, a chronicler of the time, praised Giotto as the most sovereign master of painting in his time. That's like being called the LeBron James of medieval art. While the devil in the clouds adds some juicy drama to the masterpiece, there's actually some debate about whether Giotto painted the fresco at all. Some art experts argue that the style in the Assisi frescoes doesn't match his other works, like the world-famous Scrovegni Chapel in Padua. So, was this devil Giotto's doing, or was it the work of another mischievous artist? Nobody knows, at least among the land of the living. Oh, fun fact, Giotto didn't just paint, he also designed the iconic Campanile bell tower in Florence. Clearly, he had a knack for leaving his mark, whether in breathtaking cathedrals or with devils hidden in clouds. So, next time you're admiring a piece of art, take a closer look. You never know what secrets you might find hiding in the details. If someone snuck into the Vatican secret archives to uncover the truth about something the Church has been lying about, do you believe they'd be justified in doing so? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And while you're at it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.